Survive and Advance on the Grizzly True Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I want to welcome in my other co-host. He's an Indianapolis Colts fan, so he's had at least one day to recover from his massive ass whipping on Saturday. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
How you doing, Mike? Good to be here. Go Colts.
Yeah. Well, the Colts went.
Still a Colts fan.
Next up, our special guest every Monday from the FF Face-Off, which you can find on YouTube and thegrizzlytruth.net, Dallas Cowboy fan who's also had a day to recover, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
A lot better than Dallas is right now.
We'll talk about them in a second because Steve hates when it becomes a Dallas Cowboy show. So we'll start off, so Steve doesn't get upset, talking about his Colts, who lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 31-13. There's a few things that stick out to me here, Steve. Number one, Damian Williams, 25 carries, 129 yards. They rushed for close to 200 yards. They threw for 278. The Colts defense got manhandled. Andrew Luck, 19 for 36, 203, one touchdown. Those stats do not tell how poorly he played, I don't think. I don't think he had any zip on the ball. I question the play calling that the Colts had in this game. It looked like the Colts came in with just one way to play this game, and that's the only thing they were going to do. Yeah,
Kansas City wins the toss, and we watched what the Colts did against Houston and just be very aggressive and march right down the field and take a 75-yard screen drive. This time they came out, and the first thing I noticed was very suspect, very predictable play calling. It was like run on the first down, throw short on the second down, then have to just to try and make it up on the third down. When you throw like that, you do that every play, it becomes so predictable that it becomes pretty easy to defend. I couldn't understand Luck. It was funny because I was watching the warm-ups, and there was all the concern about the weather and everything like that. And we were all worried about how Mahomes was going to handle things. And the on-field announcer said that she had watched both quarterbacks throw and said that definitely that Mahomes had a much better warm-up than Luck did. There was almost a premonition for what was going on. But I know the first pass he threw, which was a short screen pass basically, or a dump over the middle, it was like 2 yards short. And it was almost like he just got, I don't want to say afraid, but he started playing not to lose or didn't want to screw it up on the first series. Well, and I think when you do that,
I think they were coached to play in the game not to lose.
Yeah. I think the game plan was to not to lose or to play conservative when this team had not won 10 of 11 games by being conservative. I think when you go out and do that, and you do it twice in a row, which is what the Colts did, they were 3 out and 3 up and 3 out, and all that did was create momentum and excitement for Kansas City's defense. And, of course, Kansas City's defense just got on an adrenaline kick, and from there on out, it was like our guys were shell-shocked that we had gone 3 and out twice in a row. It seemed that our offensive line was not the same offensive line that we've seen in 10 of the last 11 games.
Yeah, and I want to address that because the reason I thought they would win this game was their offensive line, Anthony.
Offensive line, right.
I had this feeling. But, Anthony, the thing that stuck out to me was this. It looks to me like against the Chiefs have very good defensive ends. They got guys like Chris Jones. They got D. Ford. It looks to me like you want to line up and run the ball between the tackles. And instead what we got was a zone read scheme where they're not blocking the backside defensive end. The defensive end's coming down and crushing the play from behind. And Andrew Luck never pulled the ball once.
Yeah, you make a good point about the Chiefs' defense, and they led the NFL in sacks. And as poorly as this defense played at times, I think what they like to do with their offense is get a couple of scores early, and then the rest of the game, they are going to rush the passer, they're going to blitz, and they're going to create turnovers because they were in the middle of the pack in turnovers. That's playing into the Chiefs' strength. I think if this game was a little bit closer, the outcome might have been a little bit different. Maybe it was close. Maybe the game would have been closer. Well, because the Chiefs got out to such a big lead.
Yeah, but remember
offense,
this,
let their
Anthony.
defense have some fun out there.
Remember this. without an Adam Vinatieri missed extra point and a missed field goal, this is a 24-17 game halfway through the fourth quarter.
Right.
I mean,
well, actually, in the Colts, it was 14-0, and the Colts scored. It was 14-7. They still were only in the first half. They still were only one touchdown down.
Yeah, but then they go to 24-7 at the half. The third quarter, there's no scoring. And I think the other thing you see is this: the Chiefs have a lot of talent on defense, and so do the Rams. And their defenses didn't look that good this year. But I think that is more the fact that those teams score so quickly. I think when you see these teams come out and establish a run game, it takes a little bit of the pressure off the defense. They're not on the field constantly, and I think that helps the defense for both teams out.
Are we at the point, or are we undervaluing Damian Williams? Because
no.
we've all said that the Chiefs haven't looked the same since Kareem Hunt, but Damian Williams is doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, but that was one game. I don't think we undervalue.
Damian Williams has been lighting it up since Kareem Hunt went down.
But we're not talking 20 or 25 carries. We were talking catching the ball out of the backfield. This is a little bit different, I think. I don't think he was running for 130 yards a game before this, was he?
Me being a fantasy, I'm looking at that right now because he was one of the top fantasy backs, and I'm pulling up. Yeah, he wasn't getting the carries. You're right.
Yeah,
he was only getting 10 to 13 carries and then catching the ball a ton.
And this is the thing. When we picked this game, I said Damian Williams does damage out of the backfield. The question is, can he run the ball? And now I don't think we underrate him because we know he can run the ball. So from here on out, we don't underrate him. And my other thing is this. I think what we saw is the teams that are the top seeds are usually the better teams. And I think in at least 3 of these 4 games, we just saw a team that was physically superior, that had better players, beat a team that didn't have as good of players. I mean, if you look at the Colts, they got T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron's a decent tight end. They got Andrew Luck. Sure, they've got a good offensive line, but that offensive line has a huge hole with number 72. I mean, that offensive line got destroyed because number 72 got his ass kicked all day by Ford, Jones, whoever was on him. And I think when we look at the Cowboys-Rams game, there is just a huge difference on the amount of weapons on the teams that lost and the teams that won.
Are we done with the Colts game?
No, if you want to keep that. I'm just saying that overall, and this is about the Colts game. I think when you look at the Colts, you've got Marlon Mack, who's a good running back. You've got Andrew Luck, who's a very good quarterback. You got T.Y. Hilton. But after that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of studs here. And defensively, you got Darius Leonard. I mean, Kenny Moore played really well. There's 3 or 4 guys that are really good on the Colts defense. There's 3 or 4 guys that are really good on the Colts offense. And the Chiefs just have a lot more than 3 or 4 guys on each side of the ball that can get it done.
And I've thought all through the streak with the Colts that the Colts defense was a little overrated. I think that they were looking so good because the offense was clicking so well and getting them leads. And at that point in time, your defense could be a little more risky and take a little more chances on things and be a little more big play Ray when you're trying to get into prevent, trying to let them score again. The Colts were building such good leads during their streak that their defense could look pretty. Because they could go try and undercut the routes. They could go try and fight for the sacks and things that you would be more high risk defense to play. I thought that was the case. 2 things here. One is, as far as the Colts go, the good thing about it is it's a very young football team. They have a very good offensive line. They've got to hold a plug on there. I agree, but they also have $118 million in salary cap money to spend, the most of any team in the NFL. And if their GM is as wise as he appears to be so far, the deal he's making and through the draft, you got to expect the Colts are going to shore up big time and be more of a real legitimate threat. I mean, the Colts weren't a legitimate threat. They eked their way in. They started at 1-5. And for the guy fans like me.
Wait a second. Because if I remember right, you were talking about they're the hottest team in football, and they had a legit shot.
Yeah, they were. Sure, yeah. Right, but Mike, we've talked all along. Playing regular season and playing playoffs is 2 different worlds. It's two different worlds. Games elevate in the playoffs, and I think the Colts were probably playing at peak performance during the regular season run, but they didn't have any more. They didn't have the gear to kick it into for the playoffs.
And I think
Houston puked on themselves. Houston puked on themselves more than.
Yeah, but Houston also lost two huge weapons, which was the difference in that
sure.
game.
Well, whatever reason they puked, I don't care. If they puked intentionally or unintentionally, they still puked.
I think this. I don't think the Colts puked on themselves against the Chiefs. They just weren't
as
good.
No, the Chiefs took them out of it. They
just weren't as good, and that is my point.
Right.
You just said they had to add players. They just didn't have the players to run with them.
Right. Yeah,
and
no, they don't.
It's going to take...
It bared out. And the other factor I was going to bring up is that, we all had question marks about Patrick Mahomes. How would he handle the playoffs? How would he handle the inclement weather? Well, he nailed it. I mean, the kid's a legitimate quarterback. I mean, he's a stud in the NFL right now.
We'll see.
Now, let's see him do it for multiple seasons, which is a lot of guys have one-hit wonders. I don't think Mahomes is going to do that, but definitely the question mark was if Mahomes has a bad week and the Colts have got an opportunity to pounce. He didn't. He came out firing, came out being Patrick Mahomes, didn't alter his plan or his scheme or did anything different than he's been doing. He didn't throw a touchdown pass, and really for Mahomes, it was kind of a subpar day for Mahomes. Really, he was 27 of 41 for only 278 yards, no TDs. That's an off day for Patrick Mahomes this year.
That is winning if you've got a running back that's putting up 130 yards, though. Because that's 400 yards.
But I'm talking about him individually. Statistically, for him individually, that was not at least a par day for him. But he made the adjustments he needed to do and rode his running back and did what he needed to do to kick the Colts' tail and send him back to Indianapolis.
All right.
But, so that's it. It was a great win for them. We got outplayed. We probably got outcoached, too.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes.
All right. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys lose the LA Rams 30-22. I still think this is coaching. The offensive play calling, I don't know why they would want to keep Scott Linehan around, or Anthony. I don't understand that. I don't understand why they'd want to keep Jason Garrett around. And in the end, it's not really their fault because they don't have the weapons that the Rams have. They were overmatched, which I think all these wild card teams coming into these games were overmatched. And I was completely wrong about the Patriots in a little bit because it's the Patriots. But when I look at this, especially these two Saturday games, this is just a case of there's a lot more weapons on the Rams and the Chiefs than there are on the Colts and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree. And when Steve, he said about the Colts being outcoached, I think Jason Garrett was outcoached a little bit. I also think Jason Garrett didn't have his team prepared, for C.J. Anderson's running style. I don't think they were prepared for that. And I also have no idea why after you have Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith on the field, they got you here all season, and all of a sudden Sean Lee's in the game plan.
Well,
it's just mind-blowing.
There's two things that happened here. I mean, you can't prepare for CJ. Do you know how you prepare for a running game? You stay in your lanes. And what I saw with the Cowboys is they had a tendency to overrun it, and the Rams half the time didn't even have to block them. They just kind of shove them on by, and the ball would be run up inside of there. So it was undisciplined defensive football, and with an undisciplined defensive line, Leighton Vander Esch is not a good player because no linebacker is a good player behind defensive linemen that exposed them the way they were exposed. And by exposed, you just can't leave, no matter who it is. I don't care if it's Lawrence Taylor. You're not leaving him one-on-one with, Eric Dickerson and winning very often. So the defensive line didn't do their job, and the offensive line for the Cowboys is
right. They got dominated. Both lines on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Dallas was dominated, and finally, after all season, they seemed to be able to weather the storm of Travis Frederick's absence until this game. This is the game where you need a Travis Frederick. They're all pro center the most because you have Donald and Sue up on the inside.
Yeah, and Sue was not a big point during the season.
And that's not me knocking down Joe Looney at all. Joe Looney did a pretty good job as the swingman interior lineman for Dallas, but Travis Frederick, he's not an all-pro center. Joe Looney's just not Travis Frederick, and I think if Frederick was in, they could have at least contained Ndamukong Suh, who played out of his mind.
Yeah, and that's my question. Ndamukong Suh was basically a non-factor all season until Saturday night, Steve. And if Ndamukong Suh is playing like that, and you've got Larry Donald, this is a hard team to, gain any yards on the ground against or in the air.
Yeah, I watched that game, all the way through. And I mean, the Rams definitely elevated their entire level of play from what we had seen, because we were all thinking the Rams were kind of shaky. Saturday night, I mean, they looked like a Super Bowl contending football team. They hit on everything, but Ndamukong Suh was just, I don't know, were they focused on Donald too much or what? But he was all over. Suh was all over the place. I mean, you heard his name more than you heard anybody's name.
I think what it was is this. I think they did double Donald for a while, but you can't double two linemen at once. So then you're kind of at a loss. And, I mean, if you've got two guys wreaking havoc like that, you can't double both of them, because then you're going to have some other guys coming free.
Yeah, and Mike, what was your take on the performance of Jared Goff? I mean, 15 to 28, 180. I mean, he did a yeoman's job. He did what he needed to do.
They won the game.
He didn't turn the ball over.
They won the game because they ran for 250
yards.
Right,
sure. But
so this is the thing to me.
I mean,
what I want to see from Jared Goff is I want to see him go to New Orleans with the game on the line, and I want to see him play his ass off. Now, the thing is this. 15 for 28, 186. We could let go, but that's like 50%. I thought he played all right. I don't think that much else was required of him to win this game. It was basically, don't turn the ball over, and our defense and running game will win you the game. So he didn't turn the ball over, so he played all right.
But isn't that when you don't have a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes or an Andrew Luck or a Drew Brees, somebody of that caliber, isn't that what you expect of your quarterback to do, is just don't screw it up?
Well, the same thing can be said of Patrick Mahomes in his first start. It was similar to Jared Goff. I mean, it was 27 for 41, a couple hundred yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, because they ran the ball well. So the question is, if they don't run the ball well, can Jared Goff win the game for the team? And I think, Anthony, this is the way I've always taken it. So an elite quarterback, if you shut down the run, he can put the team on his back and win the game. And I think that is a question that we have with Jared Goff. And I still think with Mahomes, because we haven't seen him do it yet in this kind of situation.
No, I do agree there, and I think it's very much up in the air for both Goff and Mahomes. I think Mahomes can do it. I have a little bit more doubts about Jared Goff.
Yeah,
I feel like Jared Goff is more, I don't want to call him a game manager, but he's that type of quarterback who needs that running game behind him for him to play at his best. He needs that balance where Pat Mahomes could really, have some magical moments out there.
When you've got 200-plus yard running backs in your backfield, just manage the game. I mean, don't try to overachieve.
But it doesn't matter. Don't
get in the way of him.
He played fine, but the question is, and I think the thoughts are this: he's going to go to New Orleans and play the Saints. And I think for the Chargers to win this game, for the Rams to win this game, Jared Goff has got to be able to make some huge throws in big situations. And I think the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. So I think we find out a lot of what we need to know about both of these guys this coming weekend.
Yeah, I think you're going to find the underlying pattern here as we talk about all four games. Once again, I think that Jason Garrett just got flat out coached.
Yeah, and Frank Reich got out coached. And then it brings us to
Frank Reich got out coached. I mean, you're going to look at all four games. You're going to find out that the losses that occurred, and this is something I've always said.
No, I don't think the Eagles-Saints game is that at all, by the way. But
yeah, that's the closest one. But yeah, but it's what I've always said. And I'm equated to basketball, so don't rip me, Mike, as you usually would. But by the time you get to the Final Four, the difference in the four teams generally is the coaching. That's why you always see the Krzyzewskis, the Izzos, the same guys are always there, because to get there, you've got to have the coaching.
Yeah, but you also got to have the boosters to get you those players too, Steve. So it's not the same.
Yeah, okay. All right. See? All right, whatever.
Well, you're the one that always rips by Krzyzewski, so.
Yeah. So, Anthony, let me ask you a question. Is it really true that they're going to give Jason Garrett an extension on his contract?
Yeah, that was already reported before the game. So, that's definitely coming.
What's your take on that?
I'm up in the air about it. I'm not as down on Jason Garrett as a lot of people. I think he's very good at identifying what he has on his team and the personnel around him. He knows Dak Prescott's not that quarterback who's going to, light the scoreboard up. And I think he runs the offense well behind the team's strengths. And sometimes not having the personnel capture, which we saw in the first half of the season, that his hands were tied without that marquee wide receiver, and the team totally changed in the last 8 games. I think Mike can attest to this, that, coaches, and especially in the NFL, they or anywhere, they're going to break the season down into quarters, and Dallas played pretty well for the final 2 quarters of the regular season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't buy that, because I was never happy with Marvin Lewis, no matter what he did, even if he made the playoffs, because I never thought he was ever going to be a Super Bowl winning coach. And I don't think, Anthony, that you believe that Jason Garrett's going to be a Super Bowl winning coach. Because to be a Super Bowl winning coach, you got to be willing to take chances, and you can't be afraid to lose the game. And I mean, at some point, you got to spread that offense out and let Dak run a little bit, let Dak throw it, and quit just slamming Ezekiel Elliott into the line.
So even with the lack of personnel, you would still spread that offense out?
Dude, when you're down 2 touchdowns with 6 or 7 minutes left, because this is the thing.
Dak brought him back.
Dak brought him back.
I mean, they were knocking on the door. That was a 1-score game.
Yeah.
What I want to know is why did they blow that play dead in the second quarter?
What play? I don't even remember a play in the second quarter.
When Dallas was trying to drive and Dak got called, he was down, but he was being held up by his own player, and they blew that play dead.
I remember. Yeah, I questioned that too.
Call. That was a big call.
Yeah.
Well, if he's being held up by his own player, was he being hit?
I mean, no.
So nobody on the other team hit him?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that has no bearing on the game and the way it turned out.
Didn't they say forward progress had stopped or something like that?
No, I don't know what they were. Even whoever, Mike Pereira, the official the Fox has said that was a BS call.
They scored with 2:10 left in the game to make it 30-22. It was 30-15 when they got the ball, and if I remember right, the Rams went with like 3 or 4 down linemen. They played like cover quarters. They played a prevent defense. That had a lot to do with why they went down and scored. I think if that game is 30-22.
They were playing 10, 15 yards off of the wide receivers the whole game. Another thing you bring up, being out-coached, if you're a quarterback, can't you check into a quick screen and just get it out to a Mark Cooper or Gallup and let him make the move?
This is the thing. It's according who the quarterback is and who the OC is. Because some OCs, well, I know Andy Dalton the first 3 years in Cincinnati was not allowed to audible a play. Or if he was, it had to be to a certain play. I don't think Dak Prescott is given the leeway to call his own stuff, put it like that. And as you said, they played 10 to 15 yards off the whole game. You continue to try to run the ball. Why wouldn't you just add in a receiver or two and just start throwing quick screens, open the game up, and then when they walk up on the receivers and play man because you're screening them to death, you run everybody off, and Dak just runs with the ball.
I think that's the difference between the Tom Brady's and the Dak Prescott's.
Yeah, but that's the difference between Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and nobody else is comparable to either one of those guys. So with Tom Brady, everybody's always Josh McDaniels is this great offensive coordinator. He's not. I mean, number one, Bill Belichick approves his game plan. And number two, Tom Brady audibles almost everything if you watch him. I mean, what you do in the NFL is, especially if you got a good quarterback, is you call a base offensive play. All right? That gives you your formation. You come up, you look at it, you look at the defense, and then all week you've went over, well, if we see 2 safeties high, then all of a sudden we're going to run a drag over the middle of the linebackers. So you audible to that play automatically off of what they're doing. And what the Patriots do is, we'll talk about the Patriots now, is the great thing the Patriots do is every week their offense is different. And it's not that they've changed their offense. They'll just move a guy in motion or change a formation or tag a route, and all of a sudden it's different. And you'll have this week, Sonny Michel runs for 130. Next week, Rex Burkhead will run for 120. Because they will take advantage of you. They will find mismatches. And what I don't see with guys like Jason Garrett or Marvin Lewis is the ability to find the other team's weakness and expose it. And the other thing I don't see is the ability to switch at halftime and make adjustments that work. And a lot of times you'll see with the Jason Garrett or Marvin Lewis, they're good football coaches. I'm not going to say they're not. And they'll come out with a good game plan. But once that good game plan has been used for a quarter and a half, and they're playing against a guy that's a good coach, and that coach adjusts to them, they've got nothing else because they don't adjust on the fly well. And I think that's Garrett's problem. And when you got guys 10, 15 yards off your wide receivers, I don't know why you're still trying to run the ball behind a piss-poor offensive line, no matter who your running back is. But
Mike?
What?
Why do you hate Peyton Manning so much?
Huh?
Why do you hate Peyton Manning so much?
Well, there was the sexual assault that he paid a bunch of money to a girl to in Tennessee.
Oh, here we go.
You also had the fact that he never beat Florida. He never won anything in college. And in the NFL, he was a failure. And let's face it. I mean, if he was as good as Tom Brady, maybe he'd have won 6, but he wasn't. So, and Tom Brady's still playing. Peyton Manning's retired. And they're about the same age. I think there's like a 2-year difference. I don't like Peyton Manning because when I look at him, I saw a guy who, when things went bad, did not lead his team back very often. I mean, you would see him sit on the sideline after an interception with his head down. With Tom Brady, you see him getting pissed and firing people up. It's not that I don't like Peyton Manning as a quarterback. I think he's top 10. I'd put him somewhere between 7 and 10 all time. And the reason he's between 7 and 10 all time is because in the biggest situations, he didn't get it done. And you can say, well, he didn't have Bill Belichick. Well, neither did the Chargers when they beat the Colts in Indianapolis twice in the playoffs where they were like a 5 seed and the Colts were the 1 seed. So it wasn't just the Patriots that he had trouble getting by. His Super Bowl, he beats Rex Grossman. He throws 2 interceptions. He didn't play great. The next Super Bowl win against the Panthers, I don't even think he threw for 200 yards. They won because the defense is good, and Cam Newton's worse than Peyton Manning. And I don't know where the Peyton Manning question came from, but that's my answer.
All right. All right, move on to the next game.
Next up, Chargers, Patriots. My question here is this, Anthony. Why would a team come out, and I'm not big on blitzing against Tom Brady, but you got to every once in a while. But the one thing you sure can't do is come out and play some vanilla zone the whole game, never changing up, never try to give him any show coverages where you're moving your guys at the last second to try to throw him off. They came out, played a zone, didn't blitz him, and basically let Tom Brady stand there and throw for 343 yards. That was bad coaching.
As great as Tom Brady played, Sony Michel set the tone of that game early. Sony Michel had a huge game. The Patriots running backs in general, whether it's Sony Michel on the ground, Rex Burkhead doing a little bit of everything, James White 15 catches. Of course, Brady can sit back and basically do what he wants to do, and that's not even factor in Rob Gronkowski didn't really do anything. And the Patriots are still going. Julian Edelman looks like he took a dip in the, what do you call that? In the fountain of youth.
Well, I think a lot of it is just the fact that Bill Belichick builds his teams to win now.
He had an extra week to prepare.
Yeah.
That extra week to prepare for the Andy Reids and the Bill Belichicks, so you could throw Sean Payton. That's the difference.
All right, how about this? I don't think anybody you just said should ever be used in the same sentence as Bill Belichick.
Well,
Bill Belichick is the greatest. You know what? Andy Reid is 12 and 13 in playoff games.
Reid and Peyton, I think, are in that next level down.
How about this, though?
I think
Reid and
Belichick
Peyton
with the Lombardis of the world.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Reid and Peyton are offensive guys. I think Belichick has a ton to do with the defensive game plan and the offensive game plan. Where I don't think Andy Reid's sitting in on a lot of defensive meetings. But when I look at this, though, the scary thing is the Patriots' O-line and defense, which had not looked good the last 2 years even, all of a sudden looked outstanding against a really good Charger defense, Steve.
Yeah, I just think that's the Belichick factor of like you said, of dialing it in and finding the holes in the Chargers' offense or defense, either way around. And he's just a master at doing that. And this team knows what it has to do to win. It's not a flashy football team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're just efficient and they execute on almost every single play. And they eventually just wear you down. And that's kind of what they did to the Chargers, although they didn't really wear them down because I think they were up, 28-0 in the first quarter?
28-7, I think. It was bad. It was 35-7 at halftime. It was 14-7 at the end of one.
Game was over halfway through the second quarter, basically. Yeah. It was over. I mean, Phillip Rivers was just walking around like, what the hell just happened to me? And realizing this was probably his last great shot.
No, it's not. This team's only going to get better. I think he got
he's been in the league 17 years, though, hasn't he? He's like a 17-year veteran.
Tom Brady's been in it longer than that.
Yeah, well, Phillip Rivers is no Tom Brady. Blasphemy to you for putting Phillip Rivers in the same category as Tom Brady.
Peyton Manning played that long, too.
In the same category as Belichick.
Peyton Manning played that long, too. Peyton Manning played that long, too.
Phillip Rivers couldn't hold Tom Brady's jock.
Neither could you, because it stinks.
No, but we're not talking about me. I'm not an NFL quarterback, idiot.
You could have been.
See? You always got a sidebar to some personal attack on somebody when somebody tries to make a point that you don't agree with. That's your deflection pattern.
No, my point was this.
Pisses me off.
You say
play the game, all right?
You say that somebody is done because they're 37.
Didn't we start talking about your living situation in Lawrenceburg, Indiana?
It's better than living in California.
No, it's not, Mike.
Yes, it is.
It's really not.
It's been proven that within the next 20 years, the whole damn state's going to fall in anyways because it's like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, that'll make you happy. Look at that as a birthday present for you.
I would rather Pennsylvania.
Get back to football. Quit personal attacking people.
You're the one personally attacking people.
Some of you said. No, you attacked me.
I would never attack you, you big-headed freak. All right, you know what? I've heard
there you go again.
About my trailer park living situation. There's nothing wrong with a trailer park. Anthony lives in a trailer park too, don't you, Anthony?
I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, you did.
No,
you said the living situation, and you don't have to be ashamed of where you live, Anthony. It's all right.
I live in a nice little beach town. I'm almost like Steve. I'm on the Jersey Shore.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
You live in New Jersey. Don't say it like it's a beach town. Because beach towns don't have snows.
Listen, you got an East Coaster here and a West Coaster here. You sound like a bitter man. That's what you sound like on the
Midwest, where Americans live. You know what? At least I don't live in
Americans
two states.
Live all over this country.
Wait a second. At least I don't live in two states where the majority of people voted for Hillary Clinton.
California's votes don't count anyway.
They don't?
The election's over by the time California votes.
All right, Stevie.
Let's get back to football.
I was trying to. You're the one that's just decided to personally attack me, and it's really hurt my feelings. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the New Orleans Saints 20-14. How could Carson Wentz be the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles next year, Anthony?
I don't know how they can justify it at this point. I think they have a real big issue at quarterback, and they have a decision to make. And whatever decision they make is going to haunt them for the next 10 years. If it's the wrong one.
Yeah. Now, it is possible, Steve, I would think, if Carson Wentz can stay healthy, no matter what decision they make, it could turn out to be a good decision. And if they might be able to get something out of Foles or Wentz, what would you do, Foles or Wentz?
And I don't follow the Eagles that closely. This is not a team that I follow very closely, so I don't see the day in, day out working to them. But it seems to me this team is more in the spotlight and more respected when Foles is behind the center. That's just what it appears to me from being an outside fan of football. I seem to think the team be more exciting when Foles is playing quarterback. The team looks more confident when he's a quarterback. They make bigger plays. They're more consistent. They attack more. I don't know. I mean, I at this point in time, I would have to say you got to put your bank behind Foles. I think the team just rallies around him better. But again, I'm not an inside Philadelphia guy, like I am a Colts guy, or you are a Bengals guy, or Anthony is a Cowboys guy. I don't know what the inner workings is. I don't know how much beloved Carson Wentz is. I mean, basically, has the guy played a full season? Has he played a full season since he's been there?
The fan base is calling for Foles.
Yeah, which I think is a complete 180 or 360, whatever it is. Steve Smart.
Recency bias.
Than me. But a year ago, I don't think it was like that. Even after winning the Super Bowl, I think most Eagle fans wanted Wentz, didn't they?
Yeah. Last offseason, it was all, we're going to be even better with Wentz. Let's get what we can get for Foles. And now it's a complete 180. Now it's, we want Foles, and let's get a first or a first and a second round pick for Carson Wentz, whatever we can get.
All right. Now,
what's the age difference between the two?
I think Foles is 28, 29, and Wentz should be around 24.
He's not real. It's like a 4 or 5 year difference. I think Foles is
Kirk Cousins, 30 years old, got $80 million, or $60 million a year, whatever it was.
Yeah, and he's not won a Super Bowl, which will tell you how stupid teams are.
Yeah.
But we look at the Saints.
The scary part about Wentz is that you get rid of him, and then the guy goes all pro. I mean, he's got that capability in him. It just doesn't seem to be working well in Philadelphia. My biggest concern with Wentz is you can't keep him healthy.
Yeah, it's always been the biggest concern with him.
Pardon?
It's always been the biggest concern with him, even when he was in college at North Dakota State.
If you want to dump Wentz, are you willing to give up Foles just to make sure you got him there to back up Wentz? If you're going to say,
can't. It's going to cost him much money.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, but
I mean, they're going to have to do something one way or the other. Everything I hear is they're going to go with Wentz and they're going to get rid of Foles. So the question is, who lucks out and gets a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
Let me ask you a question, Mike. Would you rather have Carson Wentz and Odell Beckham or Carson Wentz and Nick Foles on your team?
Carson Wentz and Odell Beckham, because Nick Foles can't.
Well, we're talking about money. It's all comparable dollars.
Yeah, comparable dollars. I don't want to spend 50% of my salary cap money on two quarterbacks. And this is the thing. We're at a point now, if you're doing that, it tells you that Carson Wentz is the guy that should go because you're worried that he's going to get hurt. So you got to make sure you got a backup plan.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Foles, the difference between the two of these is this. It's leadership. I wrote, or we're starting to write draft profiles on the Grilly Troop Network, and I'm doing quarterbacks. And I did Drew Lock. And I talked to a couple guys in the SEC, and the thing that stood out to me is this. They say he's quiet, he's not really a leader. So to me, if you're not really a leader, you're not a quarterback. I don't think Carson Wentz is a great leader. I don't think that he makes the team better around him. He is physically 100 times better than Carson Wentz. But this is the thing. I look at it, the two best quarterbacks I've ever seen were Tom Brady and Joe Montana. Carson Wentz, physically, with the skills a quarterback needs, blows both of those guys away. But he'll never be half of what either one of those guys is because of the mentality that those two have. If that makes any sense. I mean, if you look at it, Carson Wentz is superior physically to Tom Brady and Joe Montana. I don't think anybody that knows anything is going to argue that.
No, it's like the Tom Brady. He was a 7th round pick. He doesn't, he was long and lanky. He was slow, didn't look like the prototypical NFL quarterback. And I think that's a similar analogy.
Yeah, and Montana was a 3rd round pick who nobody thought arm was strong enough. And if Joe Montana doesn't, or if Bill Walsh doesn't draft him, he may not even have been drafted. And that was when you had 12 to 14 rounds in the NFL draft. So, Drew Brees, same thing. And
a perfect comparison in that same draft is the intangibles that Dak Prescott has versus the physical ability of Wentz.
Yeah, and if you look back at what I wrote, and I'll repost that for everybody at once, I put Dak Prescott as the number 1 quarterback coming out in there, and that was why. Because he had leadership ability, and when I looked at golf and I looked at Wentz, I didn't see that on the field. That doesn't mean that they're not just a quiet leader and they're doing it behind the scenes, But all I know is this. There are quiet leaders, and it does work from time to time. But as we've talked about on the IU show with me, you, and Colin, Steve, more often than not, your leader is vocal.
Right. Agreed.
And that's why I take Prescott over either one of those guys, even though, those guys are still in the playoffs right now. They're still in the playoffs right now because they were just on better teams that had better coaches. So. All
right, so my opinion would be this. I would bet, if I had to bet some money on this, I would bet the Eagles stay with Wentz and release Tom Foles.
Oh, I think there's no doubt that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I think. I think almost Foles is almost better trade bait because he's probably got a lower salary, and there's a lot of teams that would covet to have him on their team. Where Wentz is like the questions of how much we're paying him a lot of money, and he's oft injured, and I think the Eagles just don't want to give up on him. Talk about the game though. I mean, do we all agree this was probably of the 4 games this weekend the best football game?
It wouldn't have taken much.
No,
I
agree
we saw
with that.
The other 3 games were games that were mismatches. Yeah. I know that the Cowboys made it close in the last 2 minutes. I know
the score was not indicative of the way that game was played, though.
And the Colts seemed like they got beat by 50 instead of what they got beat by.
Right. And I agree there entirely.
Yeah. And from watching the game, I can tell you this: all 4 games, I think the best team won. And in the end, I think that's what you want. I think we've got the 4 best teams in football still playing, Anthony.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the teams that should have won the games, and there's going to be some interesting Super Bowl storylines. But if we're going to go into possible matchups, I would want to see Brady versus Breeze or Mahomes versus Goff.
I want to see Brady versus Breeze.
Yeah, the question: are there 1 and 2 seeds from both leagues in the finals? Is that it? They're both, all 4 of them were bye teams, weren't they?
Yes, Steve, they were.
So it's the 1 and 2 seeds. So they called it right on the seedings.
Well, they don't call it. You get it because of the.
Well, it bared out that way, yeah. So I don't know how often that happens that you get the 1 and 2 seeds from each.
There's usually one Cinderella team that gets this
usually
far,
is.
Not this
year. Not this time, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, there's usually at least 1 or 2 upsets in the divisional playoff round. I just think this. I think we talked about this earlier in the season. I think it's been clear since about week 5 who the 4 best teams were. And I think we're just waiting to see if anybody could get hot and beat one of them. And they couldn't.
We did talk about that. Yeah. And I thought about that this morning. Yeah.
And the thing about all 4 of these teams is this. All 4 of them can beat you running the ball. They can beat you throwing the ball. And defensively, all 4 get after the passer very well. So I think that the great thing about this and what makes these games great is I think you do have 4 of at least the top 10 coaches. And really, I think you got like 3 of the top 5. And when you do that, and when you have the ability to beat people in so many different ways, and these coaches have proven they can adjust during games before, I think it makes for an even better game because I think what you're going to see is a lot of point counterpoint with guys changing what they're doing and then the other guy reacting to it. And I think these are going to be 2 great football games.
Yeah, Anthony, this is a game that realistically, on the last drive, the Eagles had a chance to win this game. I mean, if the ball had slipped through the kids' hands, and that's not a touchdown pass, granted, but they were marching. They were down 20-yard line, and when the ball slipped through his hands and fell right into the Saints defensive back's hand, they had a legitimate chance to this game. Did the Saints show some vulnerability this week against the Eagles?
No. Vulnerability to what?
I thought the other 3 teams dominated. I mean, I thought the Rams clearly kicked the Cowboys' butt.
Remember this, Steve.
Kicked the Colts' butt.
Remember this. We talked, and my prediction for this game was to be closer than people thought because I thought the Eagles could jump them quick. After 14-0, the next 3.5 quarters, this is a 20-0 shutout.
I think if anything, it makes the Saints a little bit better because they came back from a 2-touchdown deficit, and the air was let out of that stadium for a little bit there. That Breeze interception, sometimes for some teams, that's a big momentum shift. If you remember the Saints lost to Dallas, once you kind of, once they look defeated. And in this game, they never looked like they were going to lose.
Yeah, and the other thing is this: that fourth down call on his own 30 down, 14-0, is why I think Sean Payton is the second or at worst third best coach in this league. Just like Doug Peterson last year. And this is kind of why I want to see the Saints play the Patriots. And that's because you'll have a coach playing against Belichick that's not afraid to take a chance to win the game. And I think most people that lose to Belichick is because they're afraid to take a chance. And I know we're not going to pick these games till Friday. But my only thought with Andy Reid is, in his playoff history, will Andy Reid be willing at home in a tight situation to take a chance like that?
Okay. So we're done with the games pretty much. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, ask a question, and then we're going to go take a commercial break, and we'll have Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report on to talk a little Indiana basketball for tonight and a few other things. He can give you the odds and a whole lot more. Go ahead, Steve.
Which of these four coaches is under the most pressure to win?
Andy Reid.
Yeah, I don't think it's close. I think it's Reid.
Because this
I
is
agree.
the thing.
So it seems any difference in,
McVay is still young. 2 years ago, if you'd have said he'd have had you in the playoffs twice at a championship game once, you'd have been happier in hell with him. Peyton's won a Super Bowl. I mean, freaking Belichick's been in
Belichick's under no pressure,
championships. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, the most anybody had ever done before was 5, and that was the Raiders, I think, in the mid to late 70s. And I think what Bill Belichick has done is separated from him everybody that's ever coached any sport. I mean, to go, and this is the thing, in 1973 through 77 when the Raiders did it, there wasn't really parity. It was like the Raiders, the Steelers, the Dolphins, Bengals, Patriots were all pretty good around that time. But now, today, the game is not built for a team to do this. I mean, this is a game that is built for everybody to be basically 8-8. And everybody to have a chance. And to make 8 straight conference championship games, I think is maybe the greatest coaching achievement I've ever seen.
Well, and Mike, you made a prophetic statement earlier in the game that Belichick builds teams to win now. And it's almost like you almost want to say this is a dynasty, but really it's a culmination of 8 great chapters put into the same binding. I mean, almost every Patriots team that they've ever had to win has been a different football team from the year before.
Different, and that's the thing. He's done this since 2001.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
that's why they're relevant every year.
I think the only dynasty that has been longer than this would be the Ming Dynasty in China.
Touché. Well, the Kennedy Dynasty was pretty long, too.
The what?
The Kennedy Dynasty.
It was?
Before they all got picked
for like
off.
3 years. Jeez, come on.
Oh, there's a bunch of Kennedys.
None of them. But none of them ever got to the promised land except for one.
You're right.
And then yet Teddy, he ruins it. But all right, guys. Anthony, you want to come back Friday for our championship game show?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'll be back on Friday.
We will have you on. We'll have a couple special guests too. Since we only got 2 games to talk about, we got to string it out, or we'll just let Steve say whatever he wants. We will be back after a commercial break.
Got to be another personal attack. See, Anthony, he has to end it with a personal attack. See, he can't do it. Can't let it go.
I know. I do. He's right, Anthony. I'm not going to deny it. All right, guys. So we are going to wrap this up. We will be back in exactly 1 minute, 11 seconds with Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report.
Hey, sports fans. Chris and Graham here from the Grueling Truth
Thanks, Anthony.
Network.
Baseball's boring. It's too slow. Where's the fun in
You
it?
left.
If you think that, then why the hell aren't you listening to Out of Left Field with us on thegruelingtruth.net?
On our show, we make baseball way more than just a bunch of numbers. You laugh with us, probably yell at us, and hopefully learn a thing or two from us.
Ever wonder what it's like to be a major league umpire or why they made the call they did? Lucky for you, we have our own umpire on the show, even have big league umpires stopping by from time to time, and even the occasional big leaguer or two.
And all of that's just the first 10 minutes. Come on by and join the fun. Listen to Out of Left Field with Grant and me every week on thegruelingtruth.net, and give us a follow on Twitter and Facebook.
Just search Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham and like our page on Facebook. Or use our Twitter handle, @OOLeftField. It's that simple. See you all this week when we put the ball in play on Out of Left Field.
All right, guys, we're back on Survive in Advance. Anthony has left us. Bobby, you there?
I'm here. How are you?
All right, so our guest today, guys, and he'll be a guest through most shows for the last 5-10 minutes or even longer, because sometimes Risley goes on forever. And that's not an attack, Steve. That's the truth. Will be Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. Bobby, you want to tell us a little bit about the Sheridan Report?
Yeah, the Sheridan Report is basically a handicapping service that I provide, and we put out a sheet daily that gives out our best games for that day, and it's kind of a compilation of what I do personally. You know, I'm a sports handicapper, a sports bettor, and that's how I make my money. And I went online with this, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, so we've got Risley on here, and he's looking for a way to get rich, so I think he's going to start betting thousands of dollars on games. But let's start off with one tonight that is near and dear to me and Steve's heart, and that is Nebraska's plus 2.5 at Indiana. What's your take on this game?
Well, probably not a popular take for the Indiana folks. I think Nebraska's got some edges in this game. You know, Steve, Coach Knight used to talk about this ESPN dictating the scheduling and everything else. I mean, what could be more disadvantageous than playing Friday night at Maryland and then having to get ready to play this ball game tonight? You know, I mean, this is a tough spot for Indiana, don't you think?
I mean, it's an early game, too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an early game. And, you know, Maryland actually played Thursday and traveled one, sooner day, had one extra day of preparation at least. And it's a really tough spot for your group there, and their confidence is shaking a little bit. Don't you think? I mean, they had all those close wins, and they got off to the 2-0 start, and now they went on the road and played two pretty big, hyped ball games and faltered in each. And it's a tough, really tough game for them coming home, I think. And, being out-rebounded. You talked about rebounds, too, recently on one of your shows. And Indiana was badly out-rebounded and wasn't able to win. And Nebraska, in their last game against Penn State, was also out-rebounded at home as an 11-point favorite, only won by 6. It's tough to win. If Indiana doesn't win the rebounding game tonight, they're not going to win that game. Another take on this is Nebraska has beaten Indiana the last 2 times, as you know. And this group, there was a few of these kids that are playing tonight for Nebraska. They won at Assembly Hall just 2 seasons ago. So I think any points available tonight is good for Nebraska. They're catching 2 points. This is a big ball game for Indiana. I don't think they're ready for this tonight. I don't think that their confidence is, I don't think they're going to come home and play a big game, and I don't.
So my question to Steve is this, Steve. Do you think maybe it was a bad idea to have Bobby on the show?
I don't. I'm not a gambler, so my wife is far too materialistic to allow me to gamble. So, I don't agree with your philosophy, but I'm not betting money on it either. So it's easy for me to talk smack back at you. Indiana's coming back. I mean, I think their confidence is probably shaking a little bit. My confidence is shaking probably more than it would have been had they won one of the 2 games.
Right.
Statistically, they basically performed at every level that Maryland did. I mean, statistically, we talked about this. Indiana actually climbed 5 spots in the KenPom ratings, having lost to Maryland. They went from 28th to 23rd in the KenPom, and that's a statistical analysis rating. So, and that shows how good statistically they were. They just didn't finish the game and get the win. I mean, there were a lot of positive signs about Indiana. They came out strong finally, and did the things they needed to do. They just didn't finish. They fell apart, down the late part. But statistically, they only had 7 turnovers. They shot 50% while losing 40%. They had 100% of their free throws. Which I can't remember the last time Indiana hit 100% of the free throws. They basically just got killed on the boards, and that's a problem that Mike and I have addressed all year long about Indiana. What you may not know because you've never been there, or maybe you have, I don't know, but playing in Assembly Hall is a different atmosphere. It's an adrenaline junkie boost right off the get-go. And, they came home from a Friday night game, but they spent 3 nights now in their own bed, hanging out, working on things, eating their own food, their own meals. It's not going to be that big of a deal to play on a Friday to Monday. I mean, as I think that you might want to make it out to be. But I definitely think their confidence probably is a little shaky. But I think Archie Miller is going to deal with that. And what's going to be imperative for Indiana is if they come out and start the same start that they had against Maryland. You jump out on them big, maybe shut Nebraska's thought process down a little bit early. But it's a good game. I don't think this is as good a Nebraska team as we've seen in the past. I think it's a better Indiana team than we've seen in the past. So if it was me betting, I would take Indiana and give up 2.5 points at Assembly Hall.
Steve, what do you think about Romeo? I have a question for you. Is he scoring too much?
Is he scoring too much? No.
Okay, so you like you want it? You like the fact that 28 2 of the last 3 ball games?
Well, I mean, I think he's scoring that way out of necessity right now because they don't have a third scorer. He's basically scoring for dues. Yeah,
but that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, you need to have more balance.
Yeah.
We'd
like to see that, sure, but the team's kind of decimated with injuries right now. They're not as deep as I think we thought they were, and I think that it's necessity. I mean, really, he was pretty quiet in the first half of the Maryland game and came out when Indiana started to make a rally and got it back to 6 points, got back into the game. I mean, Romeo kind of took the game over. I like to see Romeo take the game over from the beginning. Yeah. Why wait till 7 minutes to go in the game and do that? Start the game that way and play that way and score 50. I don't care. It doesn't matter, but that team doesn't have a lot of scores on it. And we knew that was going to be an issue with this basketball team from the get-go, that they basically had Juwan and Romeo, and that was it. Finney hasn't shown me any depth ability to score. Devontae is a potentially scorer, but he's just hasn't developed that consistency yet. I don't know if it's a trust from him and the coach or just the way he plays the game, but, I mean, he has potential. But I think if he wasn't scoring 28 points, we wouldn't be with the record that we have. So I think he's scoring that way out of necessity, not out of individualism.
Well, right, but that also, that's what leads to my point. They got to find a third scorer, and they got to be able to out-rebound somebody, and that's why I think they're vulnerable.
I mean, they're vulnerable.
Well, this is the
but
thing,
nobody stopped Romeo yet. So.
Let me ask you this, because I think Romeo's a special player. Danny Manning, there wasn't even a second scorer on that Kansas team that won a national championship. So to having 3 scorers thing, I think is a little overblown.
It's a luxury.
This is the thing. I think if Juwan Morgan is scoring 20 a game and Romeo's scoring 28 a game, this team's going to be in pretty good shape because you got the Devontae Greens, the Finney's that are all going to score around 10 points. I think the biggest question with this team is defense and rebounding the basketball. I don't think it's the points thing because points have not been why they've lost games. They've lost games because of lack of rebounding and lack of defense, especially in the post. And if they don't fix the post, they're going to have problems when you get into the tournament. But, I mean, right now, I think Romeo's a guy that it wouldn't surprise me if he comes out and scores 40 whenever he wants, if he would just be as aggressive as he was in the last half of the Maryland game.
Well, yeah, he definitely was great in that last half of that Maryland game, but,
The comment I made on our last show is what this team has to learn to do is play 100% all the time. They want to play 100% when it's relevant to play 100%. They start off slow most of the games. They finally start off slow. They finally start off hot at the beginning of a game. Then they back it off. And usually their MO is start off slow and then build. And when a game gets on the line and gets serious, we pick it up and play. We talked about that in our last shows, and I'd rather see that tonight rather than see them come out. If they're only not going to do it 100% of the time, then go ahead and go back to your old way. Start off slow. Just stay close, stay balanced with them, and then turn it around and kick in the second half like this team's done most of the season. But if I was coaching, I'd say, guys, you got to take what you're doing either the first 10 minutes of the game or the last 10 minutes of the game. You got to understand you can do that for 40 minutes a game. Then Indiana becomes a very dangerous basketball team. Until they do that, they're a very vulnerable basketball team.
All right.
But
Bobby?
yeah,
I
but
know you do sports board at
Yeah.
NCAA basketball. What's your top play for the NBA tonight?
Well, top play for the NBA is on the West Coast. We got Detroit Pistons coming to the West Coast to play the Utah Jazz, and there's been a lot made of the West Conference teams, road teams. They can't win. I mean, Utah is the only road team that has gone to a fellow Western Conference mate, and they're 7-7, and that's on. This is against the spread, and that's on top of the Western Conference standings of that board. So, but the Eastern Conference teams have come here, and they've done well. They've come to the Western Conference, and they've covered. There's 2 spots tonight where that happens, and there was 1 spot yesterday, and Cleveland won in that spot. They won at the Lakers.
They
so
drilled the Lakers.
Our top play tonight is Detroit going into Utah. They're catching 8.5 points. Utah's played some really good basketball as of late, and they're a really good team. But I think Detroit, with their big guys in there, are going to be able to stay in that ball game and have a shot to win it in the fourth. So that's my best NBA game, and we've got one other college game we really like tonight. That's also in the Big Ten, and that's in the Wisconsin matchup tonight. We really like a side there. So it's basketball today. Wisconsin, they've got. Christ, you're catching me here. They're
Okay, I want to bet with you.
no. They're at Maryland.
Who are we playing?
No.
I don't know.
No.
I'm going to bet my farm with you.
No, they're at Maryland, catching 3.5 points tonight at Maryland. And there's Maryland and Indiana both coming off of that Friday situation.
You're saying take Wisconsin?
Yeah, and the points.
I'm saying take Wisconsin and the points.
3.5 points at Maryland after they just pretty well manhandled Indiana.
They didn't manhandle Indiana. It was a 3-point win, and the other thing is that
yeah, they had control of the
Maryland,
game for the most part. Though.
Will you be quiet for a second? You're not the only one that's allowed to talk here. But when
basketball, though,
when you look, it doesn't matter. He didn't know as much as me either because he picked Villanova to lose to Michigan in the national championship game and told me I was a loser for picking Villanova. But remember this: Maryland has lost, I think, 2 or 3 home games this year, and Maryland's schedule has not been great, and they've struggled against some teams that, for lack of better terms, are not great basketball teams. So I could see that.
Well, with the 2 choices that I made, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that Indiana-Maryland game isn't a very highly thought of game in my estimation. I picked against both teams tonight. So
I mean, Maryland's got to win at Minnesota. They beat Nebraska by 2 at home. They lost to Seton Hall by 4. Seton Hall's an all right team, but I don't think anybody thinks they're a great team. Maryland's lost by 2. They lost by 5 against Virginia at home. Virginia's one of the best teams in the country, though, so that's probably actually more of a positive mark for them. So, all right. And I know Steve is a huge Australian Open fan. Is there anything you can? We got anything that's a good bet in the Australian Open tonight?
Well, the Australian Open, it's got all these matchups. The first round, I mean, there's millions of them to look at, and we went 2-0 with our first 2 picks. My thought process on tennis and baseball, it's money line wagering, and it's our best 2 return on investments. We pick underdogs, we pick a good percentage, and we were able to hit Taylor Fritz late last night. He won in straight sets. Tonight, there are 2 matches that we like. We've got Granollers plus $1.40, and we've got Herbert at plus $1.55 over Sam Querrey. So what we try to do is we try to look at the best value versus the percent chance that we think that they're going to win, and we do a great job with it. I mean, ATP, I never would have known what was going to be our second best return on investment behind baseball, which every year we crush, but it has been, and so there's 2 selections we just handed out tonight, and the thought process would be to split those. You know, I mean, that you're going to have a really, really good chance to split those, and then you're going to win the juice, basically. You know.
All right, so
because you're taking.
Yeah, and the great thing is, if you split the juice, you said the juice. Steve, ever since he's moved to L.A., is in love with O.J. Simpson. Or the Kardashians.
Driven by his property.
It was the Kardashians.
Driven by his little property. Drove by his little property. His house is gone now, but the condo's still there. It's actually up for sale.
You got to buy it.
Oh, wow.
We could do the show from OJ's house.
Nobody's gonna buy that condo because there's nothing but gawkers like me and my wife driving by it all day long.
Well, but the Amityville horror house, her house sold, and that was haunted.
The Amityville whorehouse? The Amityville whorehouse?
Horror. Amityville horror house.
Mike, I got a question for you.
All right.
Mike, I got a question for you. You there?
Yep.
Got a question for you. Football guy, respect you a lot. What do you think about rematches in football?
Rematches usually go to the best coach.
All right.
And I can tell you this, we're going to talk about this more on Friday, but this is the question. Doug Peterson last year beat Bill Belichick because he wasn't afraid to lose the game. I don't know if Andy Reid would have the balls to coach a game like that to beat Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's you got 2 rematches coming up here on the weekend, and it's going to be really interesting what goes on with these 2 games.
Well, and I think this.
I know.
I think Bill Belichick doesn't show everything during the year because let's face it, he plays in like the junior high league of the NFL, and he doesn't really have to show a whole lot to get to the championship game. So I think when he played Kansas City, he may even played that game within the back of his mind that he has to play him again. And don't forget this, and I thought that they would lose to the Chargers. I thought their time was up. But the thing to remember is this Kansas City offense may be really good, it may be diverse and all this, but Bill Belichick has pulled 2 of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history by shutting down what were considered 2 of the greatest offenses of all time. You know, you had 1990 Super Bowl 25 against that Buffalo's Bills teams that nobody could stop, and then you had Super Bowl 36 against the greatest show on turf, the Los Angeles Rams, or St. Louis Rams at that point. So, to me, this is extremely interesting to see what he's going to do to try to slow down that Kansas City offense.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting. That's for sure. You know, when you watch Mahomes, I was watching the ball game the other day, and the guy made a comment I was sitting with. It's like he's the best kid in high school who's just, you know, can just manhandle everybody around him, and it's almost like whatever he is, 24 years old, it's like he's been doing it for 10 years. I mean, the way he just handles every situation, the cadence, from every angle, the guy's in complete control of what's going on out there. Very, very, very impressive, this kid.
We will see, because what he's going into this week, and it's the same thing with Jared Goff. We talked about this earlier with Anthony Cervino. Goff and Mahomes basically just had to be game managers to win this last game because the running games were so good. They just basically had to not screw it up. Now you're going to put them in a playoff situation where to win the game, they're going to have to make a play at some point. I trust Mahomes more than Goff there, but until I see it from either one, I'm not a big believer in 1 or 2 year quarterbacks saying that they're great, because I've seen guys like Mark Rippon who wins an NFL MVP and a Super Bowl MVP, and 3 years later he's out of the league. So we'll see what happens. I could say right now the Chiefs have more talent. Chiefs are probably the better team, but I'm going to have a hard time betting my money against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Yeah. Well, you'd be losing a lot of money over the years if that was the case.
Exactly. But, all right, now the Sheridan Report. You can follow Bobby at Sheridan Report. I'm looking at the report now. You got 6 or 7 picks here. You get multiple picks on the Australian Open. a couple each on the NBA and the NCAA basketball. And then we've got, let's see, I like the On This Day because I like the sports history stuff.
Me too. Yeah, that's why I put it on there. It's fun.
Yeah. So if you want, we can talk about anything you got on there at the end of shows also. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the boxing one you had.
I did. Today was the Benitez Palomino fight. I'm not a boxing guy. Don't wager on it. Don't really follow it, but I appreciate it, from a sporting perspective and stuff. And there was two things I found that I put on there today, and that was the one I was really interested in getting your take on, the Palomino Benitez from 1979. I mean, Risley's at Indiana doing his thing.
Yeah,
these guys are fighting.
NIT.
They're in the NIT that year and teaching people how to make free throws.
I think Knight canceled practice that day so we could watch that fight.
Probably not, because that fight was, I think it was in June of '79, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, we practice all year round. Don't worry about it.
Or no, wait, it was, was it? Nah, I think it was January. I don't know, but go ahead.
No, I wanted your take on this, Mike. You're the boxer. You're more of the boxing guy. What are your thoughts on that match? What did you think of it?
Well, I mean, I've become friends with Carlos Palomino. He's been on the boxing show 3 or 4 times. Not to name drop, but he's a little bit more important than Risley. But the thing about this fight is, it ended up being a split decision. Palomino still thinks he won it. I've watched this fight again. Fight was actually January 14th of 1979. Zach Clayton scored the fight for Carlos Palomino. The other two guys scored it for Benitez. It was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, which was Benitez's hometown. Actually, it was a very entertaining fight, and this is about the time Sugar Ray Leonard was coming around. So basically, it was the winner of this was going to get a big fight in the summer against Sugar Ray Leonard. And the great thing about this is this, though. It was on live ABC television at 4:30 on a Saturday afternoon. And on top of that, a few months later, when Benitez fights Sugar Ray Leonard, that was on prime time. You didn't have to pay for it. It's when boxing was getting TV ratings higher than football at the time for regular season football. Because at that point, really, boxing and baseball were probably the two main spectator sports. And boxing had been like that forever, so had baseball. And then we've seen it kind of fizzle out. And boxing has been more the way everything's been run. The proliferation of championships, too many weight classes, no one champion in each one. Baseball, I think, has basically just bored itself out. I mean, people don't have the attention span to watch a 4-hour game anymore. But this was a really good fight. And to tell you about the times, Palomino's purse was $465,000. Benitez made $90,000. Benitez was the youngest champion of all time. He'd beaten Antonio Cervantes a couple years before when he was 17 to be the youngest champion. And I think that is a record that for any sport will probably stand. I don't think we're going to see another 17-year-old become a world champion. But yeah, when I saw that on there, it stood out to me. I remember the fight was controversial. I know Palomino still thinks he won. Sadly, Wilfred Benitez is not in good shape anymore. I think he's got HIV. He may have even passed away. I haven't checked on that in a while, but I know it was 6 to 8 months ago he wasn't in good shape. But yeah, that's why I like when sites like the Sheridan Report put that stuff up. I just like to remember stuff like that. And the Ted Turner becomes the CEO of the Atlanta Braves. You put that up. Me and Steve were talking about it this morning. And the things Ted Turner did for televised sports, I mean, as a Reds fan in the mid-'70s, late 70s, I could see 44 games, and that was it. Yeah. Ted Turner
on the Turner
takes
Network.
over the Braves. He gets the Turner Network, TBS, and all of a sudden every Atlanta Braves game is on TV. And I think that has kind of led into what we see now. He also started CNN.
Yeah.
I won't hold that against him, but I probably should.
Really? Were you a Jane Fonda fan?
No. Didn't you
Me?
watch the Vietnam stuff? Steve, you didn't like Jane Fonda, did you? You're an American.
No, I don't like Jane Fonda today.
I don't like Ted Turner either. But
Hey, I got to defend myself here for a second, gentlemen. I've poured over 30 Australian Open matches, 6 or 8 of the NCAA games, the whole NBA board, and I'm already on to tomorrow. So when you ask me, well, who are they playing, I don't know. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and
Hey,
I've only slept 5
I can tell
hours,
you this.
So,
You've listened to this show before. Any slight mishap, and Steve's going to be all over you because that's the way he is. He's relentless.
I know that. Hey, and I deserved it. But, you popped it on me, and I drew a blank for a second. But, no, when I'm coming up with the selection, believe me, I'm not throwing darts, and I think my percentages pretty much speak for that.
Yeah, I think it does too, which is why we're going to have you on every day to talk about it. But that's not going to stop Steve from picking on you. So
no. I'll tell you what. No, here's my take on this whole thing. We have there's a thing called poolhost.com. It's a little pool site. You can set up a pool and play. We have about 20 guys that get in the NFL. We all throw on $50 and we bet. And I'm thinking, okay, this is easy. Colts are going to play the Jaguars. Okay, well, I'm taking the Colts. But where I'm miserable at is also now that it's Colts plus 7. Or what is the damn 7.5?
That's 7.5.
What is the half thing? What is that? That's just a screw with people trying to bet with you. Because you basically have eliminated 2 or 3 ways to bet now. Because invariably it's like the Colts win by 7. It's like, well, how do they win by 7.5?
You don't. That's
so in other words, why don't you just say Colts by 8?
Because then that's different than 7.5.
Steve, in sports gambling, you're looking for the value. We've got the underdog tonight plus 2.5 at Indiana. What if Indiana was plus 3.5 at home? Who do you think we'd be on?
We'd be on Indiana.
Right. Yeah. You'd be on Indiana because you play the game.
Well, I'm not questioning what you do. Don't get me wrong.
I'm questioning it because I've got somebody that I fight with, John Einreinhofer, on the boxing show because he's always talking about the boxing odds, and he's always saying, well, Vegas knows who's going to win, and I'm like, no, every bookmaker I've ever talked to tells me they try to get equal money both ways.
Right. Well, and that's what's incredible to me is these guys like Bobby that do this, how right they are all the time. It's like I look at these point spreads and what I'm picking. That's only gambling or betting against odds that I ever do is in this pool. And it's like, okay, it's like Chiefs plus 14. I'm thinking, okay, no way Colts they're going to cover 14 for sure. I'm taking the Colts, and sure enough, they win 31-13. They cover by 16. It's like who'd have thunk that? But they're so right so many times when they bet those odds or the spreads, how right they are and how close they are. And you're right, Mike. It's betting even money on both sides. I get that.
And my take on it is
so good about uncanny to me is how good they are at doing that.
Well, the thing is this: no matter how
Bobby,
much,
you better live up to my Bobby, you better live up to my expectations. Or expect to have a lot of shit thrown at you.
But this is the thing.
Hey, you're throwing shit at me. That's good.
And I think
this is what me.
I think this is what people miss. You can be a huge fan of the game, know a lot about it, but a guy like Bobby studies this all day long.
Sure,
this is what
he does
for a living. So if you want to make money betting games, go to the Sheridan Report. You can find him on Twitter. What is your website? Is it TSR?
Well, TSR is kind of the slogan, the Sheridan Report. It's the slogan, TSR. But, T for I forget the name. Is that an acronym or what do you call that? But, that's the Sheridan Report is the actual website. And like I was saying this to Mike yesterday, I make my money betting on the games. That's where I make money. The Sheridan Report is it's $10 for one day for a report if you go on there. $50 for the month. That's less than $2 a day to get my insight on that day's action for the whole month. So I'm not paying the bills with that. But just so anybody knows, my money's out there and on these games. I'm not just having a website and then not partaking, and TSR is our slogan, and it's really motivated me. It's focused me. I've done this for 30 years, and now I'm doing it full time. I'm not teaching anymore, not coaching anymore. I was a baseball coach for a long time, and as a really young guy, actually played professional baseball with the Padres.
You were drafted in the 3rd round by the Padres in 1987.
Yeah, 3rd round by the Padres in '87. That was the King Griffey Jr. Draft. He was the first pick that year, and I got to see him a lot. We both
Well,
went
see,
to the
this
same
is
league.
the thing now. You're with us now. So from now on, me and Steve are going to refer to that as the Bobby Sheridan draft.
There you go.
If you saw my career stats, I had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and my pro career was almost nothing. I was just the guy who had a great arm whose elbow blew out. Back in the '80s. Back then, Tommy John surgery wasn't like it is now.
No, you had about a 20 to 25% chance to come back in. Now you got a 90% chance to come back better than what you were before you got hurt.
Absolutely.
But all right,
hey, Bobby, I got a question for you. I got a question for you, Bobby. I played nickel dime quarter poker. Like you said, I'm a big gambler. Is there some place I can set up an account where I can bet $1 a game and take the odds? Just bet the fun for the odds. There's no way I'll take my money for $1 a game.
You could probably find a place maybe $10 a game. I don't think $1.
No, $1. $1's my limit, man. I don't want to win big and I don't want to lose big.
Well, we're in California,
see, Bobby,
Steve, and it's going to be legal here in California to probably go.
Well, and that's something we're going to want to talk to you about in down the road here. Is talk about the infusion of the legalized sports betting. We're going to want to do a show, almost a whole show on that with you, and get your take on all that. I think that's a hot topic. So study that up a little bit and try and know who the opponents are before I ask you a question in that genre. So I'm going to give you a heads up, and I'm going to ask you to describe and talk about the infusion of legalized sports betting into the major league sports and the college sports, what that's going to be. So do some research this time, would you?
I will.
I mean, we're a big-time show. We're a big-time show.
Steve's a hard ass.
Nobody is a bigger fan than me.
Bobby, I told you
that. That's for sure.
2 things, Bobby. You come on here, expect to get shit blown at you. And number 2, don't ever take it personally.
You got it.
Hey, he's listened long enough. He knows that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to have
Welcome
Bobby
aboard,
back on
Bobby.
tomorrow.
Good to have you.
We'll have Bobby on at the end of tomorrow's show.
Steve.
After Brian Rolfe is on to talk a little college basketball, we'll have Bobby on, and me and Steve will give him a bunch of crap after Romeo scores 40 tonight and the Hoosiers beat Nebraska by at least 10 points. All right,
10
guys.
points.
Remember, you can hear us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.